The battle between England and Australia's cricketers for the Ashes. England are the holders, but Australia have home advantage. Follow all the drama here on BBC World News and on the BBC Sport app.
Global business news from the boardroom or grassroots. Aaron Heslehurst cuts through the jargon with live reaction from Wall Street and Asia, studio interviews with top CEOs and the latest innovations in technology. Talking business on BBC World News.
That's the bell ringing on Wall Street, and that means the US markets are open. We are live across the globe, and it's time for the money news that matters. I'm Rachel Horne, and this is Talking Business. Let's take a look at the headlines. Our top story: shoppers around the world are splashing the cash as Black Friday goes global. There may be bargains aplenty for consumers, but is Black Friday a good deal for retailers as they fight for market share against their online rivals? We're live on the streets of New York with Samira Hussein for the latest on the battle between cyberspace and Main Street. Elsewhere, a BBC investigation finds a glitch in YouTube's tool for tracking obscene comments, which moderators say hasn't been fixed in over a year. We've also got the latest from the global markets, and wedding planners are out, wedding superstores are in. We get the lowdown on the shop where you can get everything from your bouquet to your band. But is it a convenience people are prepared to pay for? That's all to come on this edition of Talking Business. Good morning, America. Evening, Asia. Hello, world. It's Friday, the 24th of November, or as it's now become more commonly known, Black Friday. The shopping bonanza originated in the US, where it falls on the day after Thanksgiving. Now, this year, 164 million Americans, that is more than 2/3 of adults, are expected to go bargain hunting over the holiday period. And with online sales of over $100 billion for the first time ever in the US, bricks and mortar stores will have to work even harder to attract the shoppers. It's a make or break time for retailers. 30 to 40% of their annual sales come between Black Friday and Christmas. And it's no longer just a US phenomenon. Today, shoppers in the UK are expected to spend the equivalent of $2.4 million per minute. Let's get rid of the cube now. I haven't spent any money yet on Black Friday, but I know a lady who may well have done, Samira Hussein. She's been braving the queues and joins us now from the Big Apple with the latest. Samira, you are there in front of Macy's, one of the biggest bricks and mortar stores in the US. We talked there about the rising spend online. How are the traditional bricks and mortar stores finding that increased competition?
Rachel, an interesting fun fact about where we are. This Macy's building, of course, it's an iconic building in Manhattan, in Midtown, and it is actually worth $3.3 billion, which is even more surprising when you consider that Macy's right now is going through some pretty tough times, and overall its business is only worth $6.4 billion. So impressive when you think about the real estate and where we are. But yes, this is Black Friday, traditionally the time when everybody goes looking for bargains. But the big trouble for brick and mortar stores, these physical locations, is trying to get people into the stores because so many people are turning to online shopping to find all of these deals. And now we don't even have just Black Friday. Brick and mortar stores have to compete with Cyber Monday, which comes on the Monday, which is generally when a lot of people go and do their online shopping.
Now, Samira, we've talked about some pretty big spending figures here, but does Black Friday mean that we are actually spending more overall, or is this the money that we would have spent traditionally, say, in the January sales?
It's interesting because right now we're seeing that consumer confidence is certainly higher. And so people are feeling a lot more confident, and people also have a little bit more money in their wallets. But does that mean that they're going to spend more money this year compared to last? And right now, analysts are suggesting, well, that's not going to be the case. People are still going to be looking for deals, penny pinching somewhat, because when you look at wages, they're not increasing too much. And so people are still going to be a little bit cautious with the money that they have in their wallets. So that, combined with the stress for these physical stores to try and lure people in through the doors rather than getting all their shopping done from the comfort of their home in their pajamas, it may still be a bit of a tough time for retailers.
And Samira, just briefly, are consumers really getting a bargain? Because there have been a lot of stories about prices being manipulated to make it seem like perhaps you're getting a big discount on Black Friday.
So the kinds of markups that you would see far before the holiday period and then having them cut for this shopping period, those days are kind of gone because the consumer has become a lot more, there's a lot more research tools available to the consumer, so that doesn't happen as much. The other thing that really happens is that people start offering their Black Friday sales a lot earlier. So in order to try and get people into the stores, what some will do is say, well, look, you can buy a television for $15, but it's only the first 100 people in line, and that's why you see people getting in line to get those deals. But, you know, there's quite a few shopping analysts, retail analysts, that say, well, you can get some of the same deals online rather than braving the cold winter here in New York and going into a Macy's.
Okay, well, Samira Hussain, thank you for braving the cold winter in New York for us today. Now, what do whiskey, deodorant, baby formula and cashmere all have in common? Well, the amount of money companies have to pay to get these goods into China is about to fall. That's because the world's second largest economy, with a consumer market worth more than $2 trillion a year, is cutting import tariffs on 187 goods. Well, joining me now is Ginny Yan. She's Chief China Economist for ICBC Standard Bank. Ginny, thank you very much for coming in to the studio. Now, are these cuts in tariffs, are they motivated by China being more open to international trade, or are they motivated by China wanting to provide a growing population with the things that they want?
I think it's both. I think there's both a domestic element as well as a foreign element. For the domestic market, as you can see, domestic consumers are now looking for higher quality goods. So particularly on these kind of consumer goods, so the nappies, the baby formula, etc., we constantly see an ask of a brand, a higher quality of things. So it's about creating a level playing field for both foreign brands and Chinese brands. So from a foreign perspective, obviously China wants to attract more foreigners and to create that investment into China as well.
Talk us through what some of the tariff cuts are going to be and what that could mean for companies.
So it looks like the average tariff has been brought down from an average of 17% roughly towards 7%. But on some products like formula and nappies in particular, it has been cut to 0%. So effectively, some tariffs being reduced to zero.
Now, Ginny, you mentioned there that the growing sort of Chinese demand, the growing consumer demand, and the need or the desire of foreign companies to get in there and supply it. Just how significant could it be for some of these foreign companies to be able to get their products into China with reduced tariffs?
Very significant. If you look on Oxford Street, for example, you can see many of the retails are attracting Chinese consumers. Why is that? It's because the price they get in China is much, much higher, particularly on luxury items. So now we're talking about more basic goods like the formula milk, etc. But these are the sort of things that Chinese consumers want to get in China rather than having to come abroad to get. So I think this could be a significant change for foreign producers.
Okay, Ginny Yan from ICBC Standard Bank, thank you very much for your time. Now we're going to revisit our top story, Black Friday, because it's permeating some of the other business stories we've got in the headlines today. Danish supermarket chains Bilka and Fotex said their websites have been taken down by cyber attacks at the launch of their Black Friday sales campaigns. The websites were hit by malicious cyber connections, which is when a site is overloaded by requests and crashes. Workers at Amazon's main European warehouse in Italy are striking today, disrupting one of the busiest shopping days of the year. Employees at 6 German warehouses are also due to walk out. The dispute centres around a failure to negotiate bonuses. And shares in Mitsubishi Materials took a tumble on Friday after the company revealed that data had been falsified by a number of its subsidiaries. The stock price ended the trading day 8% down. It's the latest Japanese company to apologise for faking quality checks after similar revelations by Kobe Steel and Nissan. Now let's take a look at how the markets have been getting on so far today, and we'll start with the FTSE in London. And once again, we're returning to our top story, Black Friday, as that price slashing is pulling in customers, but it's expected to hurt the bottom line for some of Britain's biggest retailers. We can see there the FTSE down just a smidge, down 0.03%. Let's spin on to mainland Europe. We'll have a look at the DAX in Germany. A different story here, up 0.6%. Now it's been holding at around 1,300 for the past 2 weeks. It's climbing today with growing prospects that a government coalition will be sorted out. It's also following a bit of an Asian recovery that we saw overnight. And touching on that, let's look at the Nikkei. Japan's Nikkei ended up 0.1% after a market holiday on Thursday. And let's see what the oil price is at. Benchmark Brent crude, it's trading up at $63.57 a barrel. Let's get rid of the cube now. And now we're going to talk about keeping children safe online. Now that's because a BBC investigation has revealed that a key part of YouTube's system for reporting people who leave sexualised comments on videos of children has not been functioning correctly for more than a year. Now that is according to volunteer moderators with inside knowledge of the site. YouTube has denied any technical failure. Well, we're joined now by Mike Wending, BBC trending editor. Mike, your team did this investigation. What prompted them to look into this?
So, as you mentioned, these volunteer moderators, they're called trusted flaggers. They actually came to us with this information. We tested it out ourselves. We were given a list of accounts that were potential predators and comments that were predatory comments, very actually obscene comments, very shocking stuff. We tested the public reporting mechanism, and we found that after a period of weeks, most of those comments remained on YouTube's site. It was only when we approached YouTube as journalists that they took them all down.
So tell me, how is the system supposed to work? You flag up the comment and it should be removed?
That's right.
Or?
The comments, a comment will should go to a YouTube moderator. Now, what we found, we were told by the trusted flaggers, the volunteer moderators, is that the information that the public was providing to YouTube, not all of it was getting to a moderator who had the power to take this stuff down. In the case of the comments that we saw, clearly they were clear violations of at least YouTube guidelines, if not laws in certain places. And they should have been taken down almost immediately once somebody saw them.
Now, Mike, we have to say YouTube has denied that there has been any technical failure here. What's your...
Yeah, and they have also, in recent days, beefed up their enforcement of their own rules. However, they have also admitted that they need to do more in this area, and so, clearly they're looking into it.
Is there a deeper issue here about tech companies not taking responsibility for what happens on their platforms?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the tech companies, not just YouTube, are actually coming under increasing pressure. We've seen this today, partly in response to our reporting. Several big advertisers have taken their advertising off of YouTube, and of course, YouTube lives and dies by advertising. We see pressure from governments as well. Here in the UK and all around the world, governments are concerned about the kind of content, child endangerment, terrorism, this kind of extreme content that happens on social media. So, yeah, they're facing sort of pressure from a variety of different angles.
OK, Mike Wending, BBC Trending Editor, thank you for your time. Now, time to take a quick look at what is trending online in the business world. And what do you do with your old clothes? Well, Bloomberg says a Swedish power plant has got a novel idea. They are burning discarded clothing from the retail chain H&M to help it replace any need for coal by 2020. The Washington Post reports on a growing movement of educated ex-urban first-time farmers capitalising on booming consumer demand for local and sustainable food. I have to say I did once keep chickens, but it all got too much responsibility. And finally, the New York Times has been looking at why people like to queue on Black Friday. Apparently, it's a bonding ritual for many families, which has become a cherished tradition. I find that very hard to believe. Now, from one very expensive event, Black Friday, to another. Coming up, the wedding one-stop shop. We will speak to the man trying to do for weddings what car dealerships have done for the auto industry. But will consumers say, I do?
is leaving the European Union. Talks are underway, but what will Brexit mean for the rest of the world?
In Asia, companies that have invested in the UK are wondering whether they have to rethink their strategy and move their money and their factories elsewhere.
Who will benefit? Europe's governments are lobbying hard to win their business.
African exporters also sense an opportunity as the UK tours the world looking for new trading partners. President Trump has already said he'd strike a quick deal with Britain, but hasn't said what he wants in return.
India sees more advantage in taking its time. A good agreement on trade, it says, is better than a rushed one. But does it risk on missing out?
Brexit will bring change around the world, but here in the UK, the debate goes on. Will leaving the EU prove a smart business move?
Business on the BBC. Make the connection.
You're watching Talking Business with me, Rachel Horne. Our top story, shoppers across the world are chasing Black Friday bargains as the traditional US shopping day becomes a global phenomenon with sales worth tens of billions of dollars expected over the period. Now, your smartphone was made by robots, right? Wrong, as BBC Click found when they got exclusive access to the OnePlus factory in Shenzhen, China. Most of the production line is still operated by humans.
So being in Shenzhen, we have access to the entire ecosystem. All the suppliers are here. We can have a new idea on Tuesday and see a new prototype on Thursday for a design. Being a brand new company and not making such a complicated product as a smartphone and being based here, we didn't really have the opportunity to test the product in all the countries where we sold it. And adding to that, we didn't know how many phones to make. If you end up having too many phones in your warehouse that you can't sell, it's over.
Now, last year, the average American couple spent $35,000 on their wedding. Now, that is a big chunk of change, and coordinating everything from the dress to the driver, the bouquets to the band can be stressful. Well, one company is trying to change all of that with a one-stop shop selling everything you need for your special day. George Hammer is the beauty and retail entrepreneur behind the idea, and he joins us now in the studio. George, thank you very much for coming in. Now, basically, what you have created is a wedding department store. And when you say it like that, it seems like a really obvious thing. Why has nobody done it before?
Well, the number of people that have said to me, they can't believe that it's not been done before. And I'm even astonishing myself now. It's such a simple idea, but it's the simplest ideas and the easiest ideas that are often the best. And this is an easy idea to understand. We opened the wedding gallery in London just 1 week ago. We had an enormous amount of people ringing up online, a lot of people booking, because it's easy to understand. And sometimes businesses are too complicated, and this is simple.
So talk me through it. Is it just like your average department store, except everything is about a wedding?
No, it's very special. Everything's about wedding, but most wedding shops have dresses, or most wedding planners meet clients in hotel lobbies. So under one roof, this is a stress-free environment. We have a cafe. so that planners can meet brides, can meet florists. We have the best dressers, we have the best florists, we have the best caterers, we have the best shoes, and it's very, 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 very well curated. And the visual merchandising is extremely important to us.
Well, you have the best of everything. I'm sure you also have the best prices. I mean, how does this compare to somebody going to a wedding shop and maybe getting their own wedding planner and sourcing their own flowers? Will people be paying a premium for this?
Well, no, absolutely not. In the normal thing in the wedding industry, particularly in America, is everyone gets commissions for this and commissions for that. We don't work on commission. So for us, a bride can come into us and it's a stress-free environment. When someone gets engaged, it's one of the happiest days, of their life. When the final speech is over, it's also a great relief. Everything in between, getting engaged and the final speech, is stressful. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the stress away from it. So rather than brides having to go across London, to one dress shop, another dress shop, or go from one florist to the other and worry about whether they've got the right deal, we have the best. And when I say the best, I don't mean the most expensive. We look for unusual things that are a reasonable price point. You can buy a dress at the wedding gallery for £1,000. You can buy a dress for £100,000, and they're all amazing.
Now, I wanted to ask you about that. You talk about you look for unusual things. Everybody wants their wedding day to be special, to be unique. If everybody's buying it from the same shop, how can you make sure that that's the case? Well, we have an event company called One Events, and all our clients, they're mainly high-end companies, high-profile individuals, all come to us for something special. And we're used to it. We're used to delivering amazing events in our locations. So, for example, we had one Formula One company wanted to hang Formula One cars from the ceiling. We did it. They want... And, your world is your dream. We can do it for you. We challenge people and will challenge people to make us work hard to deliver their perfect wedding. OK, George Hammer, thank you very much for your time. Now, let's just take a quick look at how the markets have been doing in the US. You remember they were shut yesterday. It's a half day today for US trading. The Dow, it rose slightly in early trade. We should be able to see where the figures are at the moment. There you go. It's up ever so slightly. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500, if we spin round there, they hit record highs at the open on Friday, up 0.1% for the Nasdaq. That's a day after the Thanksgiving holiday, obviously. And let's take a look at the S&P. It's up 0.2%. And what is the oil price doing? Let's see. It's up as well, up at $58.74 a barrel. Let's get rid of the cube. Now, coming up after the break, Geeta will be back with Impact. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me and some of the team on Twitter. I'm at BBC Rachel Horne. I have to tell you, I haven't done any Black Friday bargain shopping yet. I'm going to try not to, because I'll just shop too much. Have a lovely weekend.
New York is a food city. There's a lot of different kinds of foods to eat. Tremendous ethnic diversity in New York. We're in Flushing, which is New York's kind of major Chinatown. It's really big, it's really far away, about 40-minute subway ride, but it's still inside the city. We're going down here. So this is the luxurious entrance to the Golden Mall. We'll descend into the stomach of Flushing. Whenever I'm in Flushing, I try to stop by and at least have some lamb dumplings or some pig ears or some duck heads. We started the club in 2005, and it started off in a tiny little Malaysian Chinese place in Manhattan, Chinatown, and it was 6 people, and we had pork contestants, and we had tripe, and it was a fantastic feast. And the next time we met, there were 12 people, and then the next dinner, there were 20 people, and then 30, and then 50, and then 100, and then it just kind of kept going. So now we've got, I think, somewhere around 2,500 members in New York City, and 1,500 in Los Angeles, and 1,000 in San Francisco. Tomorrow we're going to have Sri Lankan food in Staten Island, and to get there we're going to have to take a subway, a ferry, and a van to get to the restaurant.
Sri Lankan we call wambudu moju, but this is eggplant. It's like a sweet and sour.
Sanjay is great. He's at this restaurant